Alright everybody, welcome to another discussion video. This one isn't specifically about a perk this time. This one is more about playstyles and how what you're doing as a survivor is bad and how it's hurting yourself and your team. Now this is something I'm talking about even at high ranks. I see a lot, in fact most of the players I see doing these things. And I'd like to start off by saying, I'm not saying I am a god at this game. I am not saying I'm excellent at this game. But I do get by, and I do think I do pretty well in most instances. So, basically I'm going to list a number of things that I see a lot of players doing. And discuss why I think these are bad styles of play and bad habits. And how, you know, they're basically hurting your team. And it hopefully sheds some insight on how maybe to play these things a bit more optimal. I think is the popular word these days. Anyway, so one of the first things I'd like to talk about is actually dumb body blocks. Now, I say dumb body blocks because quite often body blocks can be a good thing. What I mean right now when I'm talking about body blocks is when a killer has someone downed, picks them up and is carrying them to a hook, and survivors try and body block the killer to make it so that they can't get to the hook, right? So what you're about to see in this specific clip is just that. This survivor here goes down against the spirit. Now you can see there's a hook just behind the tree to the right there, right? You see the hook? Someone takes a hit here. No reason to take that hit. That person's going on the hook regardless. And then they get hit again and they go down. That's free momentum for the killer. Now, like I say, body blocks can be very, very helpful when it comes to getting someone off a hook if the killer is nowhere near a hook. But right there, what was the point in that situation? That person took damage for no reason twice. Now the killer has someone on a hook and someone down. Even if they have someone on a hook and someone injured, that's just helping the killer far too much. And gifting them way too much momentum, and far too many people do it. Far too many people do it, and you know, it should be common sense, but I don't know. It's frustrating just to see people do that over and over again when there's really no need for it. It can lead to a lot of really poor situations that just give the killer momentum. And if less people did that, you know, it makes the killer's game just that bit harder. Which kind of leads me to another point. So many survivors are very quick to try these dumb body blocks, but not an awful lot of survivors are quick enough to get in and try and take a hit for someone who's in a chase. So what you might see me often doing if you do watch my stuff on YouTube is taking a hit for someone who's in a chase. Basically, if you see a teammate in a chase who is injured, and you're able to run in between them and the killer and take a hit for them, that is extremely helpful. Extremely helpful, and not an awful lot of people do that. In fact, quite often you'll see people hide out the way when they're fully healthy. Now, obviously, I'm talking about when you're fully healthy and not in the injured state. But basically, the reason this, or I see this as better than not doing it, is that, for a start, it means you'll get two injured people rather than someone on a hook, which I think is better for keeping your team's momentum. But also the case that the killer can lose a bit of momentum because you're forcing the killer then to make a choice. Is the killer going to go after you for taking the hit, or are they going to commit to the person who they were initially chasing? Which could cause the killer just that slight moment of hesitation. And even if it doesn't, you get a sprint burst from being hit. Takes the pressure off your teammate if they go after you, and it also buys your teammate time to just get to somewhere a little bit safer, you know. I think if more people did that, that helps your team out greatly. And I've lost count amount of times I'm injured and I'm running and someone fully healthy is there, and then they go and hide behind a rock, and it's just kind of like, well, you know, what are you doing for your team there, you know, like, thanks. But again, it's just one of those things, which kind of ties me into, again, my next point, which is survivors that play too immersed. Now, I'm going to start this one off by saying there's a big difference between playing stealthy and playing fully immersed. Obviously, stealth has its place, and there are times where it is better to try not to be seen by the killer. If you're trying to get the last gen done or whatever, you know, just there are places where it is better to play stealthy. But I am talking about the survivors that play fully immersed, the kind that run their urban evasion and hide all the time, and literally the second they have control of their character, their pinky hits control or whatever the button is on console, and straight into crouch, and they just crouch around everywhere. And the second there's a terror radius, you know, they go away from the gen and they don't commit to it when, you know, if they committed to it, it could have been done and people could have got their adrenaline, you know, all these things that can snowball momentum for your team suddenly go out the window when these kind of players play that fully immersed, terrified the second there's a terror radius. And again, this still happens in red ranks, and it drives me fucking crazy. Because the problem with playing immersed is good killers aren't going to waste time trying to find an immersed survivor. They'll say, for example, a survivor's working on a gen, they hear the terror radius and they go urban evasion into a corner and hide. A good killer is going to come, kick the gen, and maybe have a quick look around, see if they can see anybody, and immediately go and apply more map pressure to the other gens, right? Yeah, there are going to be the bad killers that try for ages to find the person with urban evasion that keeps just sneaking out of their vision, all that kind of stuff. But good killers won't do that. And these are the kind of players that the second the good killers or any killer find them, they can't run the killer. You know, they go down in 3 seconds. What is that contributing to the team? Nothing. You've wasted none of the killer's time, and now you're on a hook. You know, I just find these people get into bad habits. My issue with perks like urban evasion, and I'm going to include self-care in this briefly, is that it promotes bad habits. It promotes bad habits. When you get to better ranks, you should be knowing how to run certain tiles and not special ways to look, but you know, how to actually run killers rather than just hide all the time. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now that leads me on to my next point, and this is probably the one that actually tilts me the most when I see people doing it, and that is wasting pallets. And this example here, I hook someone, see this gen is popped, and I have a quick look around for them. Now I've completely lost them. I have no idea where this survivor is. See the scratch marks? Why are they standing in pallet? Why are they standing in that pallet? And then they drop it after getting hit. Think of the distance they could have got on me there when I was looking for them, and now they're done. Now they're done. Now again, I am not a great killer at this game, but people that play like that make things so much easier. When I talk about camping pallets, what I mean is exactly that. Survivors that have distance on the killer, and instead of keeping that distance, they get to the nearest pallet and they stop. Wait for the killer to gain all that distance up on them and then instantly drop the pallet. Now this game I actually got good examples, and it wasn't hard to find. This was the first recording I tried. But basically I completely lost like this Nia at this point. And where did I find her? She's standing in this pallet for some reason. Then drops it instantly. Complete waste. Doesn't force me to break the pallet either, just moves on to the next one. Gets hit here and then stops. Wastes the sprint burst you get after a hit to stop in the pallet. Drops instantly and then leaves. Doesn't make me break the pallet at all. All I have to do is catch up with her now and hit her. If she takes that hit, runs through that pallet, she makes it to the next jungle gym with that sprint burst where she can run me a bit longer. But she wasted 2 very good pallets. Well, not very good. 2 very decent pallets right there. Never forced me to break them. Moved on. Stood in both of them. Made no attempts to try and loop me around them. Now, I am not a red rank killer, okay? At this point it was purple ranks. But still, purple ranks should still know better as far as I'm concerned. And what this ends up doing is wasting 2 very decent pallets. Or worse, I mean, you saw earlier the Nancy Waste God pallet. These are pallets that good players will loop for ages. Go watch Noob, go watch Zubat, go watch Angry Pug. All very, very good survivors who can use these tiles and run killers for ages in them. Absolutely ages in them. But they get to a pallet, or they get to a loop and the pallet's gone because some idiot stood in it and wasted it. That's very frustrating for them. And very frustrating for anybody because it's such a waste. Obviously the pallet's gone because someone's used it legitimately. Fair enough. Can't say anything against that, of course. But so many survivors do play that way, and all you're doing is fucking over your team. All you're doing is fucking over your team. Use your distance. Take that distance. Get to the next loop if you can. If you can't, Don't hide in the actual pallet. Hide around the side of the loop somewhere. Wait, see what the killer's going to do, and then try and run them around it as many times as you can before dropping the pallet. That instantly means you're playing the game better and more optimally than someone who just stands in the pallet and wastes them. Because these people always do that. They stand in the pallet, waste it, and then they run away. They don't even force the killer to break that pallet. Those were two relatively safe pallets that I would have had to break had the survivor decided to stay there and try and mind game them. You know, and it's such a waste. And again, going on to Nancy earlier, she got hit and then dropped the pallet. When you get hit, again, like I said, you get a sprint burst after you get hit. That gives you time to make distance. If you immediately drop a pallet after you've been hit like that Nancy did, that's your sprint burst gone. What? That's a wasted sprint burst. Another example is when I was on a hook, Demogorgon. As you see, this ace, I actually played this quite well to start with. What happens is here, he keeps saves it. Sprint bursts. Because he sprint burst short, caps the pallet. Gets hit, drops the pallet anyway. Like, he could have took his sprint burst, got to the house, made more use of the house. Instead, gets as far as the pallet, stops, drops it, gets hit anyway. Completely wastes the pallet for the team. It gives that killer the momentum, as I said. So yeah, those are the sort of main issues I have with the way certain survivors play these days. I hope it shed some light on some things. I hope it was informative. Of course, any points you'd like to bring up, feel free to put them in the comments. I'm always open to discuss these things, see anybody else's views on them. But yeah, I like these kind of videos because you'll hear me bitch quite a lot in the gameplay videos, so I think it's good to take the time and explain in a bit more detail why these things piss me off and how they aren't actually very beneficial to the team. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!